With the recent release of Counter-Strike 2, and many people having to make the transition from CSGO for the first time, this got me wondering, what was the real Counter-Strike? We all know there was CSGO, Source, CS 1.6, Counter-Strike 1.0, the original Half-Life mod, but what about just Counter-Strike? Well, recently I stumbled upon a copy of Counter-Strike that I didn't even know existed, and by dumb luck too. Tu madre es un bitch. Trying to get this thing running was an adventure in and of itself, so be sure to watch. This version of Counter-Strike is called, well, Counter-Strike, and just like CSGO, it was a console port. Yeah, no wonder no one heard of it because who wants to play Counter-Strike on console. Plus, console ports are always a dead game that'll go nowhere, obviously. So, after arriving back from the US recently, I've been staying at my friend's place, and I found out he's never owned an Xbox 360 before. So, like most gamers, we stocked up on Mountain Dew, went to a retro video game store. Oh, why is an Xbox 360 considered retro? Oh, I'm not that old, man, I'm not that old. So we picked up an Xbox 360 and some classic bangers, you know, Need for Speed Underground 2, Burnout Revenge, and wait, what is that? Dumbfounded this even exists, I of course had to grab it. Booting into this bad boy, I thought it'd be something I'd play for like only 5 minutes max. But man, this thing dragged me on an adventure. Like, compared to modern Counter-Strike games, it's actually incredible. There's forced 4x3 resolution, you got training mode, and there's even CL right hand 0. So, of course, I started off by loading into the training mode. Whoa! Oh, it's got the CSGO bio-wheel. Okay. I'm trying. Pistols, heavy rifle. Okay, let's start with armor. Yes. Oh, they got the riot shield. No shit. P90, got me classic MP5. Let's try that out. See how bad it is in here. Oh, I gotta buy ammo. You gotta. Oh, right. Okay. Oh, you trigger. Oh, it's trigger. Man, shows how much I know about Counter-Strike. I've never played where you need to buy ammo. At least, wow. CL right hand 0 works at least. Oh, it's got like a speed up. It's like slow and then quick. Okay, so what if I do the, like, hold in the right stick? I can... Oh, so you like 180 real quick, and then... I mean, it's not that bad. I've seen worse console FPS controls. Yeah, bunny... Can you bunny... Oh, man, this is gonna be tricky on a controller. Can you bunny hop? Can I... Yes, okay. Shit, this is tricky, hold on. Oof. Hold on, can I do it by... Very high, yes. Okay, let's... Nope. It's so hard on a controller. Oh, this is so cursed, trying to B-hop on a controller. Is this the world's first? Trying to B-hop on console? After unsuccessfully trying to B-hop for the next 15 minutes, I finally made my way into the bomb site. Congratulations, you found the bomb site. Can I like give this to my teammates in Counter-Strike 2? Just, it's like, congratulations, you found the bomb sites this way, you fuckwit, stop running long. If I look, oh, okay, you gotta look down. Oh, this is some Call of Duty shit. So does that mean I can, yes! Be caught now, boys. Oh, found the skybox. Okay, this is actually a skybox. Jesus Christ. Since I remembered that I already knew how to play Counter-Strike and plant the bomb, I went ahead and just checked out the next training mode. Alright, hostage rescue. Lock and load. Get the Magnum. Then we're gonna buy ammo, right? Wait, yo. Okay, wait. How do I scope in? If clicking right stick makes you do the fast look thing, what do I... Left trigger's Why is left trigger crouch? Oh no. Oh no. Valve confirmed Silver's left trigger is crouch. Why is the op rusted as fuck? Hello? How do I inspect? Battle scarred rust coat? Okay, but how do I zoom in? Right trigger? Nope. Oh, so this is what is this? How do I scope in? Nope. How do I scope in if this is crouch? It's not left stick. It's not right stick is the fast look. Left stick's not that. That's crouch. Jump. Bro, are you kidding? Bro, it's B. Scoping with the op is B. Oh, so slow. Oh man. You hit some nutty flick shots with this. If I could. Oh, it's B. Bro, why is B scope and not crouch? Why is left trigger crouch? Oh no. What the hell is that noise? Why does it sound like someone just like opened a door in the middle of the recording take they did for that? What the fuck? Man, the CS source engine looks sick, dude. But then I was presented with something I wasn't exactly expecting. Bro, what the fuck? Alright, knock, knock. Breach and clear. Breach and clear. Whoops! Whoopsies, oh, sorry! Whoopsies. Bro, what the fuck? Bro, what? What are these models? Bro, this looks like some free-to-play Korean FPS game. What the fuck is this? This is real. This is real Counter-Strike. That's it? Oh, shit. My bad. How is this real? How is this real? Needing to make sure this was real, I had to show someone else.
Okay, Alex, I want you to play Counter-Strike, alright? This is Counter-Strike for console. Okay, so just go ahead and let's go into training again. Do training. Yeah, do hostage rescue. Do hostage rescue this time. Yeah, just play it out. Just play it out.
Why are they like that? Why are they like 7 feet tall?
Why are they Japanese schoolgirls?
Great question.
This is made by Valve, by the way.
This is you can talk to them with the blown out X button. No way. Now they'll follow me. They're twins. They're not even different skins. So what happens if you like
using your gun effectively?
Please try this lesson again.
So someone modeled that and put it in the game.
See how yellow they were.
Having seen enough weird shit, I finally booted up a normal match against bots. Yes, Demolition. Dust 2. Playing aggressive and wide peeking is the way to go in CS2, then surely it's the opposite in this. Let's go CT and hold angles. Any spot anywhere, boy. Fuck you, Marvin. Oh, get fucked! Get fucked! Oh, did you drop an AK? Oh, auto shot. Yes, 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 alright. You didn't see that. I got it. Oh. I don't got it. I think opping is the way to go. Do I have enough money? Oh, I don't. What? I can buy a scout. Yes. That's all you need, boys. Faster. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on. Can you all bang the door? Come on. Shit, maybe not. Oh, come on, man. Nope, hold on. I got this. Wait, stand still. There we go. One down. Ah, come on, dude. Oh, come on, got one. No, 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 come on. Yeah, get fucked. Let's give them the good old B-rush experience. Come on, boys. Oh, there's more. Hold on, I got more. Don't worry, guys. I got more. I got more. Don't worry, I got more. Oh, wait, one more. I got more. Nope. Shit, stand still? No, no, no. More still? Okay, thanks. Shit, shit, shit. Okay, okay, we're good. I'm gonna crouch, slowly approach, and there we go. Fuck. Ah! Stay back. I got a gun and I don't know how to use it. Oh, shit. one. Look at this retake, boys. Oh, this is going in the montage. Oh, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh. Wait, do I have a... Yes. Oh. Oh, that's so good. That sounds so good. Shit, here they come. Yes, dude. Oh, this is such a... This looks like an old school frag movie. Oh, yes. Bro, they're getting a free plant in every round. Nope, you got him. Come on. Hey, do you not hear him? Come on. Come on. Nope. Still no idea where he's at, eh? Still no clue. Why is it always bot useless? Like, why is it always that bot? Even in Go, it's always bot Ulysses. It's just useless. It's always bot useless. Every time. Man, Counter-Strike really hasn't changed one bit. Honestly, too easy. 0 deaths. Nope. Feeling confident, I decided to up the difficulty to standard. Oh shit. Oh shit, I see one, I see one. No! Damn it, bro, this is normal difficulty? God damn. Unfortunately, my difficulty with the bots wouldn't stop there. No! God, that would have been a sick double kill. Shit. Stay back. I'm blind. Did I get him? Where the fuck? No! 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 Damn it, I was right on him! Zero kills, 4 deaths. Let's go. Clearly, Xbox, I was gonna need an advantage 360. Here. Mouse and keyboard adapter. Mouse, keyboard. Okay. Xbox 360. Okay. This looks sketch. Oh well.
Select weird connection of
oh no, this is gonna be... Oh no. The Bluetooth device is now paired.
All connections are successful.
Oh no.
This time.
I don't think it was... Oh, a 6% coupon. Fuck yeah, dude. I'm sold. I don't know if this is gonna work. What's the worst that can happen? Oh, dude, are you kidding me? Free overnight with $1? I mean, it's $3 for the overnight shipping, so if... What's something for $1 I can add on here? Cotton rounds? Alright, we're getting some cotton rounds. The next day after receiving my rushed order of cotton rounds... Oh, fuck yes. I plugged in this new bad boy, and surprisingly it didn't work. After actually reading the instructions for once, I found out you need an actual wired controller to plug into it. And not wanting to spend $70 on an old Xbox controller, I gave the retro game store a ring one more time. One left in stock, I hurried over, and with the controller secured, I plugged it in and tried again. Yo! Okay, we're getting somewhere. Oh, shit. I just realized I left my mouse on the screen, and I can't change it now because I got the mouse plugged in. Hold on, I gotta plug this back in. Move the mouse out of the way. There we go. Play Counter-Strike. Play. Okay, not bad. Yo! No way! Wait, hold on. No way! Let's go! Oh, okay, tab is switch guns. I can live with this. No, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's a bit slow. Oh, the acceleration. This got like hard baked mouse accel. Oh, like it's slow at first and then it just speeds up. So like, and it's a bit delayed. It's all delayed and it's everything at the same time. It's not the best. Let's see if we can actually B-hop now. Finally, this is gonna be tricky. Oh, come on, boys! You're gonna see the world's first B-hop on console here. Damn it! This sucks. Oh, come on! I just want to get one good hop. Dude, this mouse sensitivity is not fast enough for this. Oh, wait, here we go. Mouse sensitivity setting. Okay. Press F12 and keys 1 through 9 on the keyboard. 1 is the lowest, 9 is the highest. If I hit F12, 1. Oh, yes. Okay, it's really slow now. So if I hit F12, 9, it's the highest. Oh, the fast look. Whoa. Oh, it still has that weird acceleration. Oh, oh, I think I got a hop. I think that was a hop, boys. I think that was a hop. Yes! Oh, you can! You can! Okay, it's just really delayed, so you have to hit
After successfully getting it working, I even decided to get a little fancy with it and tried rebinding my controls.
Let's rebind crouch. Let's actually do that now. Let's get rid of left trigger. There we go. Now crouch is what's supposed to be. There we go. So scope in is B, so that should be right click. B, right click. That's alt attack. There we go. Yes, look at that. Perfect. Okay, well, we beat the Yeezy bots yesterday, so I think now that we got the little converter here, I think we can go a step up now. We beat beginner. Now let's see if we can beat standard. Should we go cop? Let's see the old cobble. I've never actually seen old cobble. I don't think most CSGO players or CS2 players have seen cobble at this point. It's been so long. Get fucked. Very good. Yeah. Oh, we got 3. Shot. No. Give me. X. What's X? What's X? What's? No. Shit. What was X? Fuck it. Just buying off. What's the worst that can happen? All right. So now it's right click. Let's see how. Yes. Okay. This is doable. This is doable with the op. Oh, I liked him. Wait. I liked him. Oh, you pussy. You pussy. Don't you run. In the face. Oh. I see his head. No, it's not quick enough. Oh, I liked him. Hold on. I'm gonna hit him with a 1D. Oh! Your boy still got it. He came long. Oh. Shit. He's pushing me, man. I'm scared. Oh, I gotta hit this. He's loading. Oh, come on. Don't you dare play. Oh! Are they behind us? No, he's got a shotgun. He's got a shotgun. Oh, in the face.
While helpful, this setup did have its quirks at times.
What's X? No! What's X? No. What's X? No! Shit! What the hell is X? Damn it. What the fuck is X? Wait, no, what's bi? Oh, crap. Hold on. No, oh, don't want that one. No, don't want that one. Don't want that one. Wait, if I... I'll have a sneaky one. Oh, he's there. Oh, there. Shit. Oh, got one. Oh, clutched up. Dude, he's in the corner. I got him. Yeah, so once you get the AK, we're good. Yes, very nice. Is he on site? He is. Oh, it's mid to B. Hold on, boys. I got the flank. Yeah. Oh, in the face. Uh-oh. Oh, come on. Whoo! Both of those. Easy. Damn, this is good. Bro, I think the UMP's the play. Dude, the spray on this thing's nuts. Oh, too easy. 4-1. Alright, we won that one.
Clearly, the mouse and keyboard adapter was a bit of an upgrade. Feeling confident, I decided to try up the difficulty again.
Let's see if we do expert bots. Oh, shit. Oh, Lord, these are okay. Oh, no. Dude, no way I'm beating them. There's no fucking way. Hell no. Are you fucking... What is that? Bro, what is that? That is fucking... God damn it. It's fucking impossible. God damn it. This is so fucking bad. Oh, yeah, dude. You can't aim good enough with this. Like, it's funny, but, like, you're not really getting that much of an upgrade over the controller. I think I need to search out other options here. For these bots, I was going to need an even bigger upgrade. Console emulators are great, and they have thousands of ROMs for games online. Now, downloading the ROM online would be cheating, so I'm going to try to rip and dump all the info off the physical copy I own myself. I mean, like, how hard can it be? Well, turns out you can't just chuck this disk at any PC willy-nilly. So, after a bit of research, I discovered that only 2 drives exist that can read original Xbox disks. Thankfully, a computer warehouse in Florida had plenty of these drives in stock. Alright, can you draw a smiley face on the top of the drive? After my custom order notes and expedited shipping, I waited another 2 days.
No. Are you kidding me? $12 whole and I didn't draw a smiley face on the top. Are you fucking kidding? I'm so disappointed.
Unfortunately, my disappointment doesn't end there.
Yeah, good enough, I guess. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? Yes. Got it. There we go.
After professionally installing the disk into my PC, I went ahead and tried to flash the custom firmware to allow it to read Xbox disks.
Oh, what the hell, dude? It actually opened on its own now. What the fuck? DH1D... Wait, DH163D... Did they send me the wrong drive? Oh, you've got to be shitting me.
Please hold. Impact Computers, what's the issue?
I think I got the wrong part. Like, I'm looking at the model number on the drive, and it doesn't appear to be the right one that I ordered.
Okay. Yeah, so we intentionally send compatible drives. Is it the one that you received not compatible?
No, that's why I was hoping to get that specific drive.
As far as the original exact drive, we don't have it available.
Oh, well, it's listed on your website as being in stock with like 40 of them.
Yeah, so as I can, I'll express exactly what I just said. So our company, what it does is that it actually sends comparable models, or at least it assumes that it's correct. You know, you wanting the exact and getting something that works for 2 different things.
Well, no offense, but isn't that just false advertising?
I'm not sure the legal legality of what defines as false advertising.
Being originally from Florida myself, I wouldn't expect too much of them. So I sourced a new drive on a much more trustworthy site, eBay. After plugging in the new drive and successfully flashing the custom firmware, dumping the disk, compressing the ISO, and copying it over to the emulator, I was finally in. However, there was one major issue. Mouse and keyboard doesn't work on Xbox emulators. So, after some research, I found some software that sweats like to use on Warzone to get aim assist on PC. This software can actually emulate your mouse and keyboard movements to a virtual console controller. This also let me dial in my sensitivity precisely to kinda help get rid of that forced joystick acceleration that the game had baked in. With my new software dialed in, I was ready for these bots.
Keep the aim going. But... Oh. No ways on that. Oh, playtime. Put on burst if you ain't a bitch. No! No time, no time, no time, no time. Yeah, you better run. You better run. Alright, off to a good start. I reckon this might be it. I think we got it, boys. What if I could do hops now? Oh, you actually can! Yo! I got a little hop in there. It is way more accurate. They put my crosshair on them at a long range, you know, like this. Like, oh, where is he? Nah, now it feels like we're playing against bots. Nah, we're doing okay. We're winning this, doing good. They're like actual players just sitting there spamming scope and spawn. There we go. Not bad, not bad.
So far, I was off to a good start. With a solid 7 to 3 half, we switched sides.
Oh, this is actually gonna be hard. Like, I'm gonna need to buy kits and shit, because they just stack to one site and they get the plant in. It's just, yeah, not good. Oh shit, reload. Come on, Arnold, help me. No, I'm with you, no!
However, on CT side, we weren't off to the greatest start.
What? What? What the fuck? Bro, he's totally hacking. What does he have? Ain't no way. Ain't no way you hit that. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. God, cheaters were bad back then too. Holy shit. Actually, such bullshit. Really? Okay. Bro, what? I'm gonna peek and then die instantly. Tagged him once. What? Bro, how's that not a hit? Oh, there we go. We just gotta get out of range of their frickin' aimbots. Ooh. Oh, they're both tagged. Both tags. Oh. Nope. God damn it, look at them!
But then I remembered one key piece of information about Counter-Strike. The op exists.
There we go. Op is always the answer. Whoopsie. Where the hell are they? Oh, we won! Yes, 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 yes! Gotta camp and hold angles with scopes. It's the only way to win CT side. What the? They're cheating! They're actually cheating! Oh, I saw you. Oh, in the face. Guys, it's B already. Shit. What are you shooting at, my guy? What are you doing, my guy? You see him, boy? God, he's committing to this. What are you doing, my guy? What is this dude doing? What are you doing? What a Chad. Oh, yes. Op is always the answer. In the back. Let me ace. Let me ace. Yeah, go for it, go for it. There you go. Oh, come on, hit the ace, hit the ace, hit the ace. Oh! Dude, the 20 bomb. God damn. All it took was just using a little mouse and keyboard magic and ripping the game with a custom DVD drive and flashing firmware and shit, but it's possible. Piece of shit. I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to play this crap anymore.
Thanks for watching, boys. Thought this would be a fun little video to switch things up a bit. And I know you guys are waiting for how to smurf, but don't worry, it's well within the works. I just want to make sure it's up to snuff and give it a little more time for polish because I feel like it's genuinely going to be one of my best videos yet to date. So I just want to make sure it's got a little more time for it. So yeah, stay tuned and I'll catch you guys next time.